Not wanting to let him down, I start to undress too. The uneven concrete is covered in broken glass. The only way I can muster the courage to set off for the water is to start holding my breath at the top of the bank. I jump, but don't make it over the whole width of the floating debris. I strike out wildly so as to free my toes from the slimy stuff clinging to them. The water is surprisingly cold, though the heat wave has been going on for several days. Adrian doesn't tell me that we are, at that moment, paddling our way over a church and a graveyard. Maybe he half believes the urban legend that it is the violated graves that make the water so cold, and no coincidence that so many drown here. As we swim further and further in, the outline of a chapel starts to take shape above the water. "It's a fountain, not a chapel," says Adrian, in answer to my unspoken question. Only later will he tell me that this is all that remains of the leader's last grand plan, a half-finished fountain and a handful of scruffy palm trees. The leader was shot before he could move into his carefully planned Garden of Eden.
Agnes Gergely, Sign on my door jamb, translated by Tamás Ország.
I do not cherish memories, and even those I hold, I do not safeguard. I do not seek forgotten graveyards. Organic chemistry does not move me. Yet, at times like this, towards November, as fog-dammed windows fill this room, and I gasp for air and relief, and surprised, not knowing where your body lies, when I'm confronted by your odd gestures arriving through the waters of my mind. I feel your long and nervous fingers as they arrange a thermos flask and a pocket knife with an old can opener in the gaping knapsack. And also warm underclothes and a prayer book. And under the weightless load you still can carry, I share the creaking surprise of your back. I sense your departure. Elegant tramp. You set out. You never leave the house. You only set out. And look back laughing, age of 38 years, and you nod and you gesture. I'll soon be back. Your birthday should have been the next day. Though you whimper in words like a Benyánszky portrait, and you wave, and how you wave. Sign on my door jamb, you remained. And Ferdinand Bridge, the sludgy march, the bars, the fatal empty weakness, the gorging of wrath. Forget these freak inventions of the mind, for I have lied. I see you often beneath the stifling low November sky. You're setting out with me, breathing within me. I'm letting your tears go dribbling down my throat, and above, where it has no business, that thin Memphis cigarette struck from your mouth is burning through the skin of a star.
The slippery slime that coats the concrete makes it hard to pull ourselves out of the lake. By the time we get to the top of the embankment, our hair is no longer wet. My thoughts, too, are being dried out by the heat. I feel a bit dizzy. I close my eyes and let Adrian lead me along. Before I really start to worry, he says, "It's fine. We'll be at the market any minute now." A few steps later, and I can smell rotting vegetables and used cooking oil. But I only open my eyes when we are in the shade of the Melon Mountains. Adrian seems to find the hustle and bustle refreshing. He goes about sniffing, crumbling, tapping and tasting. The little packages in his hands are multiplying. He'll soon have one for every finger, but he won't let me help him. He lifts out an impossibly large tomato from somewhere, cupping it in his hand, as if he's offering me spring water to drink. I would love to lower my face into it. It's called a roast tomato. Later, he tells me proudly that even in the most difficult times, they grew at least one tomato a year, big enough to make salad for the whole family.
Gisela Hervoy, Love, 1959. Translated by Love-Hungarian.
I'm not afraid anymore of the laws of the galaxy, nor your words. Look, I'm severe. Tonight I fall asleep again without you. I measure distances against each other, light years, 150 miles, 2 feet between eyes that don't understand. I walk among the border stones of the known world. I grapple like a snail, reaching with my eyes, gazing at the unknown. For I'm not terrified, purposeful creeping further and further outward. Laws are severe and simple, just like triangles. Without fear in the flood of the planets, I research consistently my heart. Look, today I hang our things all over the universe. I imagine streetcars among the planets and joy in the whirling of the unconscious materials. I drive nails to the wall of shoreless emptiness, hard-thought nails. This is my work today. I do it with joy, just as if you were waiting me home with dinner. To cheer myself up, I imagine you also among the planets, so I can find you easier. Your coat is wrinkled again. Your neck is longer. You grow thinner. Hey, my son, you can help me here. I can't do all this work alone.
Now, all we need for the feast is cheese. Shoppers pick see-through shavings of it off profit knives, with reverent expressions on their faces. Adrian is standing there among the communicants. When he is offered whey cheese and the wobbly white morsel slips off the blade of the knife, without a moment's thought, he licks it off the market trader's hand. That's when I feel the first bubbling up of desire. We'll be splashing about in it for days, shrieking like the street children. Adrian quickens his steps. As we leave the market, we again feel nothing but the quivering heat on the grey slabs of the buildings. I hear a metallic sound. This time, Adrian warns me, a little late, not to look back. Behind us, I can hear the clacking of curse calls on concrete. They are hoping for something. We cross a playground. A few lads are standing around in the shade of the slide. The bigger ones have crosses hanging from their necks, and the smaller ones, keys. A couple more steps, and at last we stand panting in the shade, like people who were drowning and only made it to the surface at the last minute. After a few breaths, we notice the old lady sitting next to us on a stool in front of the entrance of the block of flats. She has the same dreamy look on her face as there was on the faces of the boys at the playground. A little further off, another lady is peeling potatoes. Minutes later, we can hear the tubers plopping at regular intervals into the off-white enamel bowl.
Yuri Toth, Faith, translated by Leslie A.
A world awakens here among the dawn's rays. The sun, it rises, and pleasure comes to stay. Unsteering, I will hold you now and always. Like faith, eternal will be the light of the day. It's rising. I would cry it out while sweeping. Take comfort. We're alive. Do note it, please, what grasses, mountains, rivers say with feeling, how glowingly the universe agrees. Rising with the rising sun's the daylight, observe the sky, it's lifting, yet the same. My arms encircle, hold you tight, and stay tight. The sky's the same, but shines, it shines again. Dawn has come. I shine with love. I try to keep you dear beside me and never go to sleep.
Adrian opens a glass door. As we go through the stairwell, I take great gulps of the air inside, which, though it smells of rubbish, is cooler than the outside air. He asks me to close my eyes and leads me out of a door at the back. The creaking and slamming of a gate and a few more steps on soft, uneven ground. Now, he says, I open my eyes. We are in an overgrown village garden. I run my palm along the bark of a cherry tree. It really is here, and the fruit is real too, just like the intertwined raspberry and gooseberry bushes. Dazed, I go further along the path, quince pear, a scruffy acacia, 2 beds full of green onions and dill, and at lastly, behind the rose bushes, an enormous purple hortensia, a village house, all grown over with wild grapevine. Adrian ushers me further in, like a conjurer who's about to make me vanish in his magic box. Hooked on the thorns of the gooseberry bushes, the moments flutter alongside each other.
The Rose by Zsófia Balla, translated by Christopher White.
Scallop-like, petal upon petal sags. The tense stalk whispers of itself alone. First one, and then another smoky triangle gathers into circles that grow tighter. An eye unraveling in the peacock's tail. The swirling shapes the petals make catch in their murmuring circle what the paroxysmal rose conceals. Full, concentrated, central. Because it will never open, ever. Army's onslaught finds it wrapped in its own secret. We shall never learn what might have been revealed further inside. There in the dark, beneath the arches, the petals form a barrier and lay siege. Within the rose's depths is another rose. Unless one falls, one cannot know one's place. Here on the table, the rose cools, and yet I fear it may soon droop. Fall, perhaps freeze at the moment of disintegration like an eye transfixed. It stands there, reaching out, petal, stem, and leaf in turn, and now that blossoms shed, it nears the end. My eye stows it away, avidly sucks it in so I'll see it once it has burned out. My gaze thumbs through the viscous curve, savors it, plunges into it, gropes the shut places, void, edge, cilia, the petal's substance, surface and heat of a hollow powdered by butterfly wings. The head held high. But how much longer? In vain, I let it scorch my cheeks. It burns up, peters out. For it, and it alone swelled with my ecstasy. Picture, copy, tale are useless. In vain do I delay the honey-shaded rose, glimmering like the lamp from within, sighing like a dense wind freighted with vanilla. While it lingers, now, drink in its image to the dregs. What values such everlastingness if dead already?
Adrian spreads a thick quilt on the grass, spears each corner with a stake, and then ties the corner of a sheet onto the tops of them. This will be our four-poster bed. I can hardly wait for us to throw ourselves down under the fluttering blue-white canvas. That is precisely why his movements are so slow. He's counterbalancing my impatience. I accept the rules of the game as he offers them. We must draw out the yearning for as long as possible. I trust his sense of proportion and his senses, though beyond the fact that enormous tomatoes grow in his family's garden, I know nothing about him. At this moment, I'm only interested what I can learn by observation, touch, and smell. He spreads a tablecloth on the grass. I sit down obediently on the edge of it, cross-legged. A vein in my neck pulses faster and faster as I watch him moving. He slides his hand over the tomato, which opens up almost of its own accord. Before he cuts it into equal slices and carefully arranges the wafer-thin slices of goat's cheese between them, he cuts off the stalks of the green onions and sniffs his fingers. After he has beaten the whey cheese into a creamy consistency and sprinkled dill on it, he presses the bread to his hip and carves off the first slice.
The One You Love by Anna Heiner, translated by Kotelin N. Ulrich.
Is the one you love invulnerable? Is the one who you love immortal? You keep putting to unceasing tasks the one you've chosen for yourself. Give that one a real brave lion's heart so that you're scared out he can survive. Put your heavy hands very carefully on the sunken head of your beloved, but not a single hair of his be hurt. Knickers on the Clothesline by István Ősi.
A pair of knickers swings, wind blown, as if with wings. Billows rounds out quite a bit as the wind blows into it. All those who see it gaze. It's sure to stun, amaze. Rare occasion, not the norm. There's no content, only form.
He puts the tip of his finger to my ankle bone as if it were a tasty morsel. At his touch, a shudder slithers up the back of my neck. I fuss with my hair so as not to give myself away. I don't want to break the rules of the game yet. It comes all the more unexpectedly when, a moment later, he does in fact taste me, easily, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He hardly touches the cotton fabric as it slips to one side, as if we have been naked for ages already. At night, we take the sheet off the stakes so we can see the glowing windows in the blocks of flats as they bend over us. I dream several times that they are tipping onto us. And the only reason this doesn't happen is because in Adrian's dreams, the bright towers are there to shoot us out into space.
Amy Károly, Gentle, translated by Katalin N. Ulrich.
As if looking at an animal, love is so sudden. The gentle tenderness when it happens, the hands setting forth slowly to caress. Loving is so easy. Loving's hardest. It knows it takes some burden as heavy as lead. How much there is for gentle, strong love to bear.